for a month, and I want to do lightning photography, and my phone is 5S crap.
Okay.
All right, everybody quiet.
Yep, 5 seconds. From tornadoes to hurricanes, blizzards, and everything in between, you're listening to the Stormfront Freaks podcast. Stormfront Freaks are former television meteorologist Mark Massaro, collegiate senior in atmospheric science Brady Harris, digital meteorologist and weather producer for The Lift on the Weather Channel app Dina Knightley, freelance on-camera meteorologist and former Weather Channel meteorologist Kim Cunningham, and I'm your announcer and Skywarn Network radio operator Mark Johnson. Now, here's the moderator of the Stormfront Freaks podcast, amateur storm spotter Phil Johnson.
All right, welcome to the most entertaining weather podcast on your listening and viewing device. This is Stormfront Freaks podcast, and if you're watching our video, we call it Stormfront Freaks Raw because you're watching in the raw, unedited video footage of our podcast recording. But regardless of how you choose to get the show, thanks for listening and watching. We got a great episode for you tonight. It's episode 29. Our guest is hurricane chaser and creator of HurricaneTrack.com, Mark Sudduth. We'll also be discussing the Saffir-Simpson hurricane rating system and, of course, our weather fools, weather resources, and much, much more. So let's go ahead and introduce the team. Find out what they're drinking for our happy hour because we always sound better. We always look better the more we all and you all drink. So we will start. Brady, you were going to agree with me, Brady. I know
I was going to say that I look pretty good right now. You know, I'm not going to lie. My hair, honestly, my hair is usually working against me, but today it's working for me. I like it.
It's looking
You
good.
never have enough hair to work against you. All right, so let's start off in Minnesota with our Skywarn radio coordinator, MJ. What do you got tonight?
Hey, everybody. It's going to take a lot for our viewers to drink to make me look better. But anyway, I've got
Get out of
today,
here, MJ.
I got today
great.
some Angry Orchard crisp apple hard cider.
Nice.
There you go. That was my first, the MJ, that was my first drink ever.
Wow.
No joke.
Oh,
See, I
my
told you
goodness.
last show. I told you in college it was for us. It was wine coolers,
Wine coolers.
and now
Wine
it's
cooler.
the
Well,
ciders.
Yeah, I mean, I was a cider guy for about 6 months, and then it just was too much. I couldn't do it anymore. I switched to beer.
Well, I'm in. Of course, because summer is upon us and the heat is upon us, and we're getting 90-degree weather. I'm going a little harder this time. Last show, I did some kind of Seagram's something that was tasty, but it was like soda. It had like 3% alcohol. I'm moving up to 5% alcohol. Mike's Hard Lemonade.
Oh my
There
God.
you go.
And we're drinking a little strawberry lemonade this evening.
You're moving up.
Nice.
All right, Kim, our former Weather Channel meteorologist in Atlanta. What do you got for us?
Well, you know how last week you teased me with, truth, ice cream, Cincinnati.
Oh, yes.
Only in Cincinnati would you have beer or have ice cream that has beer in it. So I just had to have one. I had to have the truth. So I'm drinking truth.
You
It's
did,
right,
yes.
guys. And always a good one. Always my go-to. And
Oh, yeah.
heading back up to Cincy in July, and I'll get some more. But if you
Jeez,
like
you must
IPAs, this is good.
You must have bought a couple pallets of that last time you were up here.
I do. And I have family that comes down and they run a trailer and bring it down for me. But no, that's not true.
Constant
That's
stream.
not-
All right.
Okay.
Brady is our recent weather grad in Columbus, Ohio. Brady,
Oh,
what do you got
Go
for us?
Bucks, first of all. Second of all, so I'm on a bit of a diet right now, so I can't really have any
Again?
alcohol. Again, yes.
Yo-yo.
Well, because here's the deal. I
Yo-yo.
was really hard, and then I went really hard in reverse, and pretty much gained it all back. So now I'm back on it, and I'm drinking an Atkins protein shake. This stuff is money, dude.
With the
2
cover
grams of
still on
net
it.
carbs, 15 grams of protein. It'll satisfy you for at least 3 hours.
I
throw
still
that
see
out.
a cap on it. Have you actually
Well, yeah,
had
that's
a
because I
sip
haven't
out of it
started
yet?
drinking it. What are you? I guess the segment is, what are you drinking? All right, I'll have a sip. Cheers.
Pressure's on.
There you
And Maz isn't with us tonight. He's got a business conference. It's Dina's night off, so we got 4 freaks. And our guests, so our informal, unofficial introduction, Mark Sudduth. What are you drinking this evening, and where are you based out of? Where are you in?
I'm in
Carolina?
Wilmington, North Carolina, Wilmington on the southeast coast, and they're really the finest water on earth, Fiji water for tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll
help.
Everybody always needs a designated driver.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Right.
Mark.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Helps you pee better.
Yeah.
You left that out.
You-
so it helps
No,
you.
you're trying to stay sober watching this thing maybe develop in the Gulf, right? Is that what
Yeah.
the deal is? Yeah. Okay.
I have 7 children.
All right.
So I've got to stay sober.
Let's do this. Let's give you your formal introduction, and I'm going to turn it over to Kim to do that.
All right. Well, Mark has been studying the impacts of hurricanes for 22 years, and he is the founder and editor of hurricanetrack.com. And his team actually deploys remotely operated unmanned camera systems to stream and capture live video of hurricane effects. That is so cool. Now, the video is saved in the cloud and later retrieved for analysis, including time-lapse research and educational uses. In addition, Mark has worked to collect wind and pressure data during tropical storms and hurricane landfall events, and has contributed numerous reports to the National Hurricane Center, both operationally and post-cyclone. Well, I know we have a million questions for you, Mark. This is just so cool. And I think, when I read this and I looked at your website, I thought, this Herbie, I don't know how you say it, HURRB project. I think that's what we're talking about in your intro. To me, it's like the equivalent of Toto, you're out chasing tornadoes, you throw Toto out there and try to get some data back. So tell us about this project. I think it's very fascinating. And if you've had some success with it too.
Yes, it started way back in 2004, really. During that very busy season, we had conversations with Max Mayfield, the former director of the National Hurricane Center, over the years prior to 2004, and he was very concerned about chasing hurricanes and, that somebody's going to get hurt, and, they value the data and the reports and the video, but it goes against everything they stand for, condoning people going into hurricanes when they're trying to get people to evacuate. And he was really encouraging about trying to come up with a way to leave something behind to record video, especially, and certainly data. And I've always been a data geek ever since I was a kid. When the Weather Channel came on the air, I thought, wow, that's the greatest thing ever. Mm-hmm. And it just became, it sucked me in. And so as I grew up and started doing the hurricane thing, we really got that sort of father figure response from Max. You could tell he really cared, but he also really wanted to, I think, have a change in the way things were done so that somebody does not get hurt. And so by 2005, we had come up with a way to basically use a laptop, and I'm going to try to do the share thing real quick. We'll see if we can get this to work. And we'll do an application. Yeah, there it is. Very nice. So that's what the first one looked like. And for those listening to this on the podcast, think of a Foot Locker, like a trunk. It's yellow, it's pretty large, and inside of it are all these gadgets and a laptop and a huge battery to power everything. We were using Windows Media Encoder to encode that video, and it was cumbersome. It worked, but it was tough. And we started that in 2005.
And heavy.
It was heavy, exactly. It took a couple of us to do it. We only put 4 of them in the back of the Tahoe. And so the first event was Hurricane Katrina. We had tested it before then, but the first real-time event was Katrina, and we took my colleague Mike Watkins and myself 3 of those boxes, and we set it up in Gulfport, Mississippi. And the whole thing's just this epic long story, obviously, but we lost all of them in that magnificently terrifying surge. And I say that, I mean, it was just unbelievable, and it erased everything that we had attached the boxes to.
Oh.
Wow.
So it took until about 2015, 14, 15 or so, for things to change, that the technology became smaller, and it allowed us to get away from using a laptop altogether and just use a Wi-Fi based camera and a mobile hotspot, and then these lithium battery packs that are, well, I mean, the whole thing, this is what it looks like now. I mean, it's tiny.
Wow.
A little bit bigger than a lunchbox. And so we can fit 20 of them in the back of our Tahoe if we want to. We have a dozen, but I mean, they weigh 5 pounds fully loaded.
So they weigh less. So how much do they weigh? How much do they cost? Sorry.
Right. So, well, the old system, and I'm glad you mentioned that, was about $1,500 to set up, and the new system's anywhere between $500 and $700.
Oh, wow.
And the beauty of it is it's
Nice. Yeah.
wide frame, 16 by 9. It has audio where the old system did not have audio. And the first deployment in a hurricane, because we came up with these really in between hurricane landfalls for the United States, was Hurricane Hermine last year. And the one that we set up that was very successful was in Cedar Key. And that turned out to be extremely popular on the Weather Channel, on the Weather Channel's Facebook Live, and on our streaming services that we do.
Wow.
And it was just incredible to be able to put it wherever we want to and then leave. And it captures in your face point of view video where nobody else can be, not even the most diehard of storm chasers. You think about, Josh Morgerman, Mike Tice, Jim Eds, myself. You can't stand there with a video camera, even a GoPro, when 6 feet of waves and picnic tables and docks are coming through. It'll kill you.
Yeah.
This camera can.
Wow.
And it did, and it was remarkable. Wow. And then we set it up during Matthew, in which we can get to that. But it started back in 2004 really as an idea, and then in 2005 we put it into operation, and it has evolved into what we have now. And this
tell.
Go ahead.
Didn't mean to interrupt there, but I guess tell me a little bit as you're talking about that. What is the funding behind the project? Where are you getting the money for all these units?
Well, so currently everything's basically crowdfunded. And,
that's awesome.
And but in the old days, we had big corporate sponsors that were behind what we did. Lowe's Home Improvement for about 7 years. We were working with Sprint, and Sprint actually would give us equipment. A quick story, back in 2001, I was using an old Samsung bar phone. No, it was a Sanyo. My mind's starting to go. Sanyo.
Join the club.
You got some time.
Plugged into the laptop to get about 14.4, maybe 28.8 data. And anyway, it was Tropical Storm Barry, and I was able to send a report to the National Hurricane Center in the eye. Barry was really well organized for a tropical storm, using my laptop. And Carrie Sanders from NBC News did a piece on us, and it aired the next day on the Today Show. Somebody from Sprint saw that in Overland Park, and the rest was history. And so we were able to get amazing technology as it was coming out and field test it. And that allowed us to do a lot. It really did. But things change, economies come and go, whatever. Hurricanes, if they don't keep in the public's eye, people start, well, we don't really need to fund anything. We haven't had any in so long. And, it's business. It is. And so, but today, when you have the ability to reach a lot of people like we can and social media, then the funding can be spread out across a lot of people like public radio is. And, probably not going to be buying a yacht from what I do, but at least keep this going.
Damn.
So that I can do what I enjoy.
Maybe a kayak.
Maybe a Lego yacht.
Kayak.
Wow.
So Mark, are there any sensors inside as well that get like barometric pressure and wind speed or any of those as well inside that?
Not this box, but we have an entire other system that we use. We use RM Young anemometers and RM Young pressure sensors.
Okay.
And people who know that, that's very high dollar, high end, extremely accurate recording equipment. You don't go to the mall to Brookstone and buy that.
Not a Radio Shack stock item.
And even that has evolved. The equipment has stayed the same, the sensors, but the way we would gather that data and then transmit it out to the internet has changed. Everything was based on laptops back in the day. And now, even with our weather data, we're able to use, and starting just this year, in fact, it's literally getting ready to go live, the first event that we have, we're using the little tiny Raspberry Pi. computer, Linux based.
Yes.
And so all of the equipment that would have to go into a case for the weather data is now in the size of that little box down. Everything's tiny now. And so it's just fantastic. And all of that data goes to our app and to our website, to our subscribers. And it was really, really amazing during Matthew to see people screen capturing our app and sharing it elsewhere on Twitter, that they were using it. It made me feel good that we created the code, we created everything, the software to talk to the equipment and set it up, and here are people watching it. And I mean, it updates every minute right in front of your eyes, and it really made me feel good. And it ended up in the post-cyclone report. Stacy Stewart included my data, and that just makes me feel good because contributing to the science means a lot to me.
But tell me a little bit, because I know you've been dabbling in drone usage. What's your idea with that, Mark? How do you plan on adding that to your whole system?
Well, I think the obvious thing is when it gets too windy, you can't use them. And so we have no plans for anything like that. That's just beyond anybody's capability or budget, more than likely. Sure. So the best use would be, in my opinion, especially when trying to understand the effects of storm surge, which a lot of these remote cameras are going to be there to record on ground level, would be especially for a very large surge event hurricane such as Katrina or Ike or something along the North Carolina Outer Banks like Irene back in 2011. And that would be to fly the coastline and get a lot of before footage, and then you geolocate everything and you go back and whenever you can and fly it again afterwards, and you can use that to compare before and after, and it can serve in almost real time, as we can upload that to YouTube immediately, and then in education work and outreach and scientific work later on after the hurricane. Other than that, probably not going to be very much that we can do, considering 25, 30 miles per hour. It becomes very difficult to operate even the best of the Phantom quadcopters that we have.
So how do you decide where you're going to put it?
Some of the equipment that we have, you mean?
Do you go for the right front quadrant? I mean, what do you do?
That's a great question. And so, they say, do not focus on the skinny black line that goes down the middle of the forecast cone. Well, that's exactly what we have to focus on, because we want to make sure we are in that zone and as close to the eye as possible with our equipment. As we are able to afford more equipment, we can spread it out over a larger area, and we're getting there. We have plenty of cameras. I want more weather data collection equipment, and that's more costly, but we'll get there. So the idea is we follow each advisory and where the cone is going and where the center is forecast and what the effects are. My degree is in geography, and I focused heavily on earth science and climatology and hurricanes. And you got to know the coastline. You have to understand that a hurricane along the upper Texas coast is different than a hurricane along the North Carolina Outer Banks, and that's different than a hurricane in New Jersey. And so after 22 years, you start getting good at figuring out, okay, this hurricane's going in this general area. What do we have around here where we can best document, observe, and then later use as research the effects of that hurricane? And so Hermine was an easy one. You knew where it was going for the most part. And on that right-hand side, up into the Cedar Key area, the Big Bend of Florida, it was a no-brainer. Yeah. And so I put a camera in Cedar Key, and it captured, as a side note, the record high surge ever recorded in Cedar Key. The camera was there for that. Wow. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you put both units together, like the media camera unit and the sensor unit, or do you spread those out as well?
It's almost like you've been sitting in on our meeting. So we used to not. We had to try to figure out. So before they were separate, and so we would have a hotspot to power the weather data system, and then another hotspot, a mobile hotspot, to power the camera. And once we got to this idea of using the Raspberry Pi and everything's going to be smaller, I figured the two can be real close to each other, because with the weather data, ever since we came up with that back in 2004, we wanted there to always be a JPEG image, like a webcam shot coming from wherever we set up the instruments. And so I said, let's get rid of the JPEG image and let's use live video now. We can. And so they'll just share the same hotspot because the weather data is only bytes, 20, 30 bytes per minute that are getting sent up. And the streaming video, of course, is more, but it doesn't, there's so much bandwidth that we can do it now. So there'll be 2 boxes. One will contain the camera, its 2 battery packs, and the hotspot. And then 20, 30 feet away, or maybe closer, will be the box that has the Raspberry Pi, and it's got Wi-Fi built in, and it'll talk to the hotspot, and off we go. A 2-for-1 deal.
So Mark, when you place the cameras and stuff down, do you usually try and stay near, or do you get the heck out of there? Like, are you chasing it, or are you going to a different state?
Well, this brings they were developed mainly for the severe hurricanes that we have no business being where the cameras are. If we're putting a camera up, I mean, we're going to do it in a tropical storm. We're testing every time we can, and I love being out there. But the idea is that they are a replacement for me, and I can be, and my team and I, in several places at once because of this. And so the idea would be to set them up and then go somewhere else to, nowadays, man social media, keep blogging, keep doing reports from wherever we are. But now we have to focus on, and Kim mentioned this earlier, and I want to make a distinction, our Hurricane Research Balloon Project, HRBE, which is a separate project. We got everything covered on the land. I think we do a pretty good job of it, and the ocean, basically, and where they interface. 5 years ago, we came up with the idea of sending a balloon through the eye of a hurricane at landfall with weather data capability from High Altitude Science. They have this little tiny computer, and it records pressure, humidity, and temperature every 6 seconds onto a little micro SD card, and they use it in all kinds of high altitude research. So we thought, why don't we do that in the eye of a hurricane? It's basically a sounding. But if we're going to do that, you might as well put 2 GoPros on there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What it looks like.
Oh, yeah.
So you can watch it live, right? I mean, you can.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
We need funding for that. That's a
that would be
all right.
Here we go. This is it right now. Let's ask for it.
Ooh,
Challenge is out there.
After I pay off my student loan debts, I got you.
But you got to have more equipment to do that, and you got to keep the hurricane's job is to ruin your life and to break your stuff. And we are not immune. Trust me. And so you have to keep it simple and keep everything easy to operate. And so HRBE was designed, it has 2 GoPros, it has the weather computer, an APRS transmitter for amateur radio, beaconing, and then a spot locator to help as a redundancy to find it. And the whole thing, again, it looks just like this. It's in a case. We have so many of these boxes that I think we're keeping Pelican Case in business.
There you go.
It's not the military, it's us. It weighs 5 pounds, and it's lifted by a 1,500-gram weather balloon, and it goes up to 100,000 feet. That's the idea. It bursts, and it comes back down. And all the while, it's recording all of that data and recording everything on the GoPro, on the chips, and they'll run for a little over 5 hours. We've tested it almost a half a dozen times, not in a hurricane, obviously, usually out in the Great Plains somewhere. You say, well, why would you do that? Well, it's easy. Very easy. It's flat. Yeah. We want to make sure the equipment works and that the finding part is it. Because in a hurricane, it's going to be the hardest thing we've ever done.
You're going to need your yacht.
Oh, yeah. You're going to need several yachts, a fleet of yachts.
So do this. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit here, Mark, because I want to get your opinion and feedback on this year and the hurricane season. And what I'd like you to do is first explain a little bit to our listeners, just a quick definition of El Nino and why that has an impact on the tropical season and what it's looking like this year.
Well, El Nino, very simple definition, is the abnormal warming of the tropical equatorial Pacific. The exact why is still basically unknown, what triggers it, etc. But that'll warm up in different regions. The Nino regions are divided into different areas, kind of like a Venn diagram. And when you get all that extra heat out there, you usually have more convection, and that air going up spreads out. And in simplest terms, it sends that air across into the Atlantic basin, usually the Western Caribbean, not so much the Gulf, and sometimes across the tropical Atlantic. All that rising motion in the Pacific causes sinking motion and shear in the Atlantic, to put it in simple terms. And so an El Nino is bad for the formation of Atlantic hurricanes, but generally good if you don't want to see Atlantic hurricanes, with the exception of 1992 as an example with Andrew. 1983 maybe. It just depends, right? And so early in the year, it looked like, based mainly on the European and its ensembles, it was like, oh, El Nino is coming again. And a lot of people really jumped on that, including Joe Bastardi. I mean, I'm not calling him out. I'm stating it like it is.
Sounded like you were.
Hey, you know what? At least today I saw on his blog that he said how Tom Downs was telling him all year, don't get on that El Nino bandwagon, Joe. And he didn't listen. But the Euro's good, right? I mean, it is. And so a lot of people thought, okay, it's coming. If the Euro says it must be. And it's wrong. It turned out to be wrong. Now, there's the predictability barrier, a period of time where it's really hard for these models to resolve things that far in the future, and it's not going to happen. I mean, we're looking at, in fact, the mid-June CPC IRI came out today, the consensus, and it's not happening.
Yeah.
The Atlantic, on the other hand, warmed above normal in the main development region, and almost a complete horseshoe shape, typical of a warm AMO pattern, not completely dissimilar than 2005. And I said, oh man, 2005.
No, oh God.
Watch out. But it's not ever going to be an exact match. But if you look, you're going to have that horseshoe shape of warmth around the Atlantic. And this year is close enough that you have to say we're probably going to have a pretty busy season ahead.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us, do me a favor here, Mark. Tell us a little bit about hurricanetrack.com and your app, and also explain how listeners and viewers can, follow you on social media and find that.
So hurricanetrack.com started in 1999 just as a way for me to reach the world, and I started writing up what I called a commentary pretty much every day. It was, hurricane outlook and commentary or something like that. Now we know it as blogging. And back then I had to actually use HTML. Now I do it in WordPress. That's great. And so that's been around for quite a while now. I guess almost 18 years it is. And with the advent of social media, especially live video, we really got into that, as I said, starting in 2005. And then a few years later, we got away from Windows Media and started using Flash-based Ustream. And then Twitter came in, Facebook. And I've been with YouTube on there since 2006, but I never really understood what I had, which is my fault. Because if I had really embraced it, I think it would be a lot further along. But that's really starting to take off. I put my daily video updates on there, and the responses from people are fantastic. The ability to reach people, and I know this is nothing compared to the Minecraft gaming YouTube realm. With 8 million subscribers for some of these kids. But some of my Matthew videos, the Euro would come out, and I would do a real quick update, 7 or 8 minutes on what it showed, 2:30 in the morning, and by noon the next day it had 25,000 views.
Wow.
And for one guy in his room, that made a difference. I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And let me tell you a real quick side story. I kid you not about YouTube. I'm at Wendy's here in Wilmington in a completely different car than my decked out Hurricane Tracker Tahoe. And I just ordered something for my kids, whatever. And the guy said, 6:32 at the window. And I pulled up and he goes, and I wasn't even wearing this shirt. I was undercover, right? He goes, are you the guy that does those weather videos on YouTube? What? He goes, I recognized your voice. I couldn't. I was like, are you kidding me?
Wow. Yeah, we never get that. We never get that.
I don't know about you, Phil, but I walk into Kroger and people just flock to me. People are like, "Can I buy your groceries?" I'm like, "Not today. Not today."
But Mark, Mark? How can people follow you on social media?
So at Hurricane Track, Hurricane TRACK is the brand of everything, and so Twitter is at Hurricane Track, Facebook /Hurricane Track, YouTube.com/Hurricane Track, and one thing I really like to do is interact with people. One thing that bugs me about some of these very popular people in the weather business is they ignore everybody that responds to them. And I'm like, you can't be that busy where you can at least respond to 5 or 6 out of the 40 or 50 that interacted with you.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's a privilege.
Yeah, don't be a weather snob.
Right. And a certain president of the United States tweets and never responds to people. It's like, come on, man. It's a little different. He's got 40-something million followers. So.
All right. Well, let's jump to it's time for our lightning round, which is our speed round of fun questions for our guest. And we are bringing back, just for you, Mark, we're bringing back Hurricane or Supermodel.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh my God.
So here's the game. I'm going to give you a name. And you have to guess, is it a name of a 2018 NOAA hurricane name, or is it the name of a very popular supermodel?
All right.
What was Professor Hopgood's high score again? Wasn't it like? Didn't he get like every single one except for like 2?
Yeah,
Oh,
you
you're
did good.
kidding.
I don't know, dude. He was on.
Pressure's on. All right. Let's do this. You ready? Mark, you ready to roll?
I'm thinking about the list.
Okay, here we go. First name. Hurricane or Supermodel? Oscar.
Well, it's a hurricane.
Yeah, that is. It is a 2018 hurricane. All right, next one. Patty. Hurricane or Supermodel?
Hurricane.
It is. Patty was 2000. Is going to be hurricane. All right, next one. Jerry. Supermodel or hurricane?
Well, it's I don't know if they retired Jerry, so I guess it's a hurricane. I don't know if it's on the 18 list.
It is. Yeah, it's not a 2018 scheduled hurricane name, but it is a supermodel, Jerry Hall.
Oh, okay.
Jerry, that's just,
didn't she marry Mick Jagger?
Yes.
Yes.
Jerry.
Okay. All right, next one. Isaac.
Well, yeah, that's a hurricane.
Yeah, it's definitely a hurricane. Next one. Linda. Hurricane or supermodel?
On the 18 list.
My aunt's name is Linda.
I'll say supermodel.
And you would be correct. Linda Evangelista.
Dude, that's my aunt.
Next one. Sean. Hurricane or supermodel?
Hurricane.
No, Sean, S-E-A-N, Sean O'Pry is a supermodel.
Dreamy Sean.
Next one, David. Hurricane or supermodel?
Supermodel, because David's retired.
Mhm.
Okay, that's correct. It's David Gandy is a supermodel. Next one, Raphael.
Hurricane.
That could be interesting. That is a hurricane. See, that's one of those that could catch you. Raphael's a definite supermodel name.
You would definitely think Raphael's a supermodel.
All right, Nadine.
Supermodel, because that just happened recently. Nadine.
Nadine
really?
is
I was thinking of Nicole. That was last year.
2018 scheduled hurricane name. All right, next one. Brady ought to get this one. Geezel.
Oh, what?
Supermodel.
Geezel is a supermodel.
What supermodel is that? And why would I get that? What
You
the
have a
heck?
poster. Come
Isn't
on.
that Tom Brady's
Brady
wife?
address that. Right.
Oh,
That's
my-
Geezel.
Geezel Bunchen.
My name, if my wife's name is Geezel, then I don't know.
Gazelle? Are you
I'm gonna
sure?
go and-
I
Yes,
swear
it's Gazelle.
It's
Wait,
Giselle.
did you say
Bunchen.
Geezel? When you meant to say
Tom's gonna-
gazelle? It's
Tom is
oh
gonna-
my god!
He's coming right over there.
Oh.
Wow.
You know, it's like Wiz Khalifa.
Nope, nope, not even close.
All right, Mark, Cindy, supermodel or hurricane?
Which one?
Cindy.
Well, that's on this year's list, so that's a supermodel.
Wow.
That is Cindy Crawford. You're correct. All right, William, hurricane or supermodel?
Hurricane.
Correct. Alex,
Sam.
hurricane or supermodel?
So, okay, let me remember. So Alex was 04. So it would be again in 12. No, 10, 16 plus 6 is 20. Supermodel.
Correct, Alex Lundqvist.
Nice.
Very
Alex
good.
Lundqvist. Wow. You sure it isn't Geezel? Alex Geezel?
The pronunciation of these names do not, do not take me to the dictionary. All right, Stephanie, hurricane or supermodel?
Hurricane.
That would be a no. That would be Stephanie Seymour.
Stephanie's definitely a supermodel.
Here we go. We'll do a couple more here. Alberto.
Yeah, that's the first one next week.
Alberto.
That is correct. Alberto is a hurricane name. We'll give you an easy one. Heidi.
Heidi. I don't know if it's on the list, but it's definitely a supermodel name. So I'll say
Heidi Klum.
Yeah.
Heidi Klum. All right, and then last one. Tony, hurricane or supermodel?
Ooh, that's tough.
Tony. See, we don't get to those that far down.
Right.
Think Tony
Unless
the
it's like
Tiger.
2005.
Think Tony the Tiger. Tony the Tiger's got some.
Yes, I'll say supermodel.
Here's the good news. No matter what you say, you would have been correct because Tony is the T Hurricane for 2018, but Tony Ward is also a very popular supermodel. So, congratulations. Great job. Great, you finished.
Nice.
We got a couple, and we give away pride here, so you got a lot of pride coming your way.
Yeah.
For that answer, but you did a great job. Thanks for having some fun with us, Mark. WeatherProShop.com. You guys have heard me talk about these guys. What a great source for Skywarn weather spotter merchandise and reference tools. They've got embroidered T-shirts, polos, caps for men and women. They also have report logs and great laminated reference guides for spotters and chasers. And they'll even do custom orders and volume discounts for your chaser and spotter organizations or for your county and city government. They'll do as well. And here's what I found out. They got free shipping for orders over $300. They'll ship everything to you free. You can also save $5 instantly when you buy a Skywarn hat and shirt together. So there's a couple specials they have going on right now. And new customers, as always, setting up an account will receive 5% off their order. And for a limited time, and this is expiring soon, Stormfront Freaks listeners, you'll get an additional 5% off at checkout when you enter the code STORM, STORM. Enter that at checkout. You'll get another 5% discount. So if you're new, that's a 10% discount. Great deal. So lots of reasons why you should visit and support our partner, WeatherProShop.com. So we're going to go ahead and take a short break. Our podcast listeners will hear the latest edition of the Titans U Minute with Chris Sanner, but don't leave because we'll be right back with Mark and the Freaks to discuss changes needed to the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale.
Bam.
All right.
All right. Cool. All right, Mark.
All right.
Well done so far. Good job,
Thanks,
brother.
Mark.
Yeah.
You doing all right?
I am. Thank you very much.
Someone keeps bumping their microphone, though. I don't know. Is that you, Brady, or
Probably.
Mark? Or
No, maybe it is. I don't know.
I keep hearing some bumping.
Yeah.
Bumping the
Right
desk
there.
or the microphone, or
Yeah, I hit my.
I can hear that too.
I keep hitting my leg on the bottom of the chair, so I'll stop.
that would do it. In the great phrases of Manager Brown from one of my favorite baseball movies.
Giselle.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna let you.
Geezel.
Geezel.
That's the show title. That's absolutely the show title. I
That has got to be.
mean, we don't even need to vote.
How do you spell that? Though that's the problem. Is you can't spell it to get it wrong.
There's no e. It's not G-E.
Geezel. I
It's
swear it
like
was Geezel.
It's like
German.
G-A-Z.
It's German. I've got German heritage. She probably did it to Americanize it, but in Germany, that's really how you would pronounce it.
In Germany, they'd probably pronounce it in German. That's what I would think. They would probably use German.
MJ, if you can watch our 5 minutes, is he taking a break?
Yep, he just went to it now.
He cut away. Okay, so he
let's
cut
check
away.
out the squall line. Let's see.
So there's a line of storms gonna bust through into Oklahoma, northern Oklahoma soon. But William cut away
Dude,
for
God.
for that.
Why don't we ever get anything like that? Come on.
We had a storm. We had a line come through here in Atlanta, about 40 to 50 mile an hour winds earlier today.
Yeah, that was like early in the day, right? Because I was watching that. I was watching that roll through, and I was like, "Dang."
Hey, Mark, can you do a quick sound bite for us? If you would say like, "Hey, this is Mark Sudduth, creator of HurricaneTrack.com, and you're listening to the Stormfront Freaks podcast." Can you do that?
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
Hey, Mark Sudduth here. Okay, here. Hi, Mark Sudduth here, HurricaneTrack.com, and you are listening to the Stormfront Freaks podcast.
Perfect.
He's a pro.
That's a wrap.
Works for me.
We'll do that one. Okay, good. Thank you. We still haven't really used those that much, but we've got them on file if we need to. So Mark, when you become president or when you become, director of the Hurricane Center or something like that,
Wouldn't that be awesome?
That.
Oh yeah.
We'll be using that.
Wouldn't be.
So, Mark, what do you do on off season? What do you do? Get ready for the season?
Yeah, conference circuit, and a lot of testing of new equipment, and just spending time with the kids. Do a lot of volunteering at their school, but a lot of talks. Between civic groups and schools, and then conferences. I go to Mississippi State and speak at their symposium, and it's a lot of fun.
Great.
You said you had 6 kids or 7?
7.
Do you have 7 children?
I can see how you keep busy. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
None of them have run into the room, so that's good.
Yeah, I was going to say that's impressive.
What are their ages?
See, they're not here now, so that's I had my wife take them out.
That is awesome.
You're going to owe her big time.
Hey,
what are their ages?
So 7. Let me start over. So 20 is my oldest one, and I have a 2-year-old. So 2 of them are in college.
Wow.
And so there's 5 kids at home basically.
Yeah.
And I didn't have 7 kids all at once. They're spread out over 20 years. So.
Now, do they have hurricane names or supermodel names?
My youngest, her name's Daphne, and my oldest is Nathan. So there's a Nate on the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, my wife signs her emails, or she used to. It would say Rebecca Sudduth, RN, BSN, blah 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 blah, and then at the bottom it would say a hurricane season widow.
There we go. I believe that. I mean, that's just like, I know Dr. Forbes, he lives at the Weather Channel during severe season. So
yeah, 04, 05, and 08, I was hardly home.
Oh, I bet.
Then there's years where I was home too much.
Yeah.
It's like, I hate those quiet seasons. I hate El Nino.
My
That's
mom
your
says
wife.
that all the time.
She
You're
does.
home too much.
Okay, so when we come out of break, we'll talk about the Saffir-Simpson scale, and basically talk about how, and I think that obviously came to head quite a bit last year because it really doesn't bring into account, the wind doesn't bring into account surge,
right,
and flooding and all that. And I know there's been a lot of conversation on that. So I'll certainly, Mark, get your 2 cents, and Kim, get your 2 cents in there, and even Brady, get your 2 cents in there. Just because I'm not quite as familiar with that, and I don't know if MJ is either. So 3 of you guys can kind of take that over a little bit and talk about what you think should happen or could happen, or is wrong with what's currently in place. That would be cool. And then we'll try and wrap that up right about at the top of the hour.
Professor Hobgood actually came up with his own kind of hurricane system. That made a lot of sense. I might talk about that.
We can start. We can start at any time. It looks like.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and get started. Count me in.
Here we go in 3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome back. We still got Mark hanging on here with us, and so we wanted to use this opportunity to talk about, when it comes to hurricanes, I think one of the topics that has really come to a forefront, especially last year, is measuring the scale of hurricanes through the Saffir-Simpson wind scale, which is really just a measurement wind speed, and it doesn't really take into account a whole lot of destruction, storm surge, flooding, the various things like that. And so there's been a lot of talk about changing how you're categorizing hurricanes. Currently, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's based on wind. But I'd love to hear, Mark and Kim and Brady and you guys talk a little bit about what's currently in place. If you want to talk a little bit about the current scale, but what do you guys think really needs to be adjusted or changed?
Well, the original scale, of course, developed as the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Damage Potential Scale, basically for wind. And then over the years, somehow pressure and surge got integrated into it. I'm not really sure too many people know exactly how. And then diagrams were made showing, well, a Category 5 hurricane will make a 22-foot surge or an 18-foot surge. But we found out, like with Ike, that a Category 2 hurricane can do the same thing. And so it's created by engineers, et cetera, for a specific purpose back when few people had access to hurricane information like we do now. And so over the years, it has sort of grown into this thing that people don't understand perhaps like they should, that, wind is probably the least of our concerns overall. Yeah. And that the surge and the heavy rainfall are bigger concerns, in my opinion, at least in the 20-something hurricanes I've been in. But there are exceptions like Andrew, and the wind can still knock trees down and damage your house that way. But I don't know if there needs to be a different scale so much as people just understand hurricanes for their entirety, than just looking at a number system. Well, it's a 2, so I'm not going to worry about it. That's like saying, I'm not going to worry about getting rear-ended at 25 miles per hour. That's no big deal. It's going to be a big deal if you get rear-ended at 25. It'll be a horrible deal if you're rear-ended at 55, obviously, is my analogy. But you don't want to be rear-ended at all, right? Right. And so people just, they don't understand.
Well, think about this, Mark, too. I mean, think about Hurricane Sandy. It was a Category 1. And it did absolute devastation, and the winds were strong, but the storm surge and, that was really what did the most damage. So I'm completely on board with you in terms of, it shouldn't just be based on wind. It should be based on, storm surge, possibly even hurricane size, because that matters. If the strongest winds are, within 5 miles and then they dramatically decrease, from the eye wall and you're getting out, 5 miles outside the eye wall and it's just nothing. They need that, people need to understand that, because the second, it's a Category, 3 hurricane or more, and they don't get hit directly by it, but they're in the hurricane and it doesn't necessarily affect them as strongly as, they thought it was going to, then in the future, these people aren't going to trust, the source, and they're not going to trust when it actually, a very dangerous situation comes along. So I do think, you have to, it can't just be based on wind. I definitely think the Saffir-Simpson scale needs to adapt in some way, because I think, we're almost dooming ourselves for failure at some points with the public, especially.
Agreed.
I think what's hard about, surge is that it's different all across the hurricane, really, how the surge is going to be. Now, maybe a small area might have the worst surge. So do you warn people, based on surge, when it's just a small little area that's going to see the most extreme surge? So that's where I I can see surge being part of it, but at the same time, you warn for the worst, but then only a small part of that area gets the worst surge, and then people don't believe you anymore. So
right, it's tough.
Yeah.
I really like what the Weather Channel started doing. I think when Dr. Lyons was there, that he had an impact chart or whatever for different cyclones that were coming at the United States or elsewhere. And, it would have it was a graph or whatever, a bar chart, and it would say like wind, surge, and then rain, whatever.
Yes.
And waves. He included waves in there. Dr. Lyons is a big surfer. And
yes.
I thought that was
our expert.
Right. I thought that was a great idea.
Because he recognized it.
What's going to be the worst? But like you said, you say, well, this is going to be the worst this time around. And you say, well, okay, we're ready for that. And then it's not the worst. It's just tough. It is a very difficult problem to solve.
I just wonder if you just have to get away from just focusing, and the media's, to blame for this too, is just hyping the category itself, right?
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on the impacts and just showing those charts, those bar graphs, they are so focused on the category of it. And so maybe that's the angle to go to, is try to get people on board from staying away from that. Not that it's not important, but if surge is going to be a big deal, that's what we did at the Weather Channel the last couple of years. We tried, if it was really going to be the surge was going to be the big deal, we didn't talk about the category so much in the winds. We really focused on the surge. So, because I think it's going to be really difficult to try to do one way to measure or to put warnings out when there's so many different factors, and one's high, one's worse than the other. It's like, how do you do that? You can't without confusing people. So
I definitely agree. Because honestly, the category, it isn't really for the people, the behind the scenes people that know what they're talking about, because they're going to know the impacts of the hurricane. So the category is really for the public. So, it can't be so one dimensional. That's when it has to have all these, multifaceted, but at the same time, it's got to be simple too. So I don't think there's an easy solution to it. But I definitely think, something's got to change, because I agree. Too many people just focus on the category when, sometimes, like you said, every storm's different. So you're going to have to, people are going to need to know the impacts, not just the category.
Right.
And do you guys see this as being something where it's obvious sounds like it's more of a public issue? The general public is getting it's a confusion issue with the general public, but what about the issues with, even if it's a large category storm that doesn't make landfall? Because it seems like that's an issue as well, that if it doesn't hit land, the general public is thinking, well, it's not going to be as big of a deal unless it makes landfall. Do you guys agree with that? Does there need to be?
It's a great example of that for Florida.
Yeah.
And then Matthew, here's another way to look at it. It's a great example for Florida because it was approaching Florida as a Category 4, and it never made landfall in Florida. It also never made landfall in North Carolina. But North Carolina, outside of Haiti, has the most deaths and tremendous amount of destruction from the river flooding, the freshwater flooding from Matthew. And Matthew's eye never crossed the North Carolina coastline. So how do you reconcile that? I mean, the hurricane never crossed the Carolina coast. In South Carolina briefly. So it is really tough, especially with the amount of population growth that we have and hurricane experience whatsoever.
Yeah.
Have any of you seen? Oh, go ahead, Kim.
No, I was gonna say that's so true about the landfall that you brought that up too. That's like people, they hear, if they think landfall is going to be terrible, and it could be, it could be a low end Cat 1 or landfall, and you don't get much out of it, and so and then you get, a major hurricane making landfall, and then it's, 50 times worse. So, focusing on landfall too, I think can be, like you said, it's, I think it confuses people. They hear landfall and they could think one way or the other, really.
I think another point too that is valuable is not only not overhyping it before it even becomes a system. I think meteorologists can get very carried away sometimes with, there's a chance for tropical development. And I think sometimes, we might get very confident in something and it doesn't pan out. And then people are like, well, it completely destroys credibility. So I think, a lot of the putting out like notices and putting out outlooks is great for people that know weather and for people that can understand it. But, when it gets on the news and, your local TV station meteorologist is talking about possible tropical development 10 to 14 days out, that's when it really can do some harm, because people, then it just doesn't pan out like weather does, And so I think we have to be really careful as meteorologists to, especially in the public view, to really restrict our, hypothesizing for the future when it comes to tropical development to people that know weather.
Yeah, you try to tell that some of these TV stations they're hyping it. They want they want to be the first ones. it's all about ratings a lot of times. So that I think it's going to be hard to get some people on board to be more responsible.
Well, let me jump in and say this about the power of social media, and especially as YouTube as an example, where someone like myself, and as an example, Levi Cowan, tropicaltidbits.com, he does video discussions. Maybe a slight advantage, or maybe it's a major advantage, it depends on how you look at it, over television, is that television is usually going to have a narrow slot in which the meteorologist can have to explain, whereas as long as I'm not too boring, I can talk 20 minutes about it, and I can engage people, and they can get the full story. And a lot of it, of course, is in how you deliver it, et cetera, certainly. But I have learned that I'm not constrained by time. I know that you want to try to keep things as brief as you can, but sometimes it is advantageous to be able to further explain things to reach those who are willing to listen.
Yes.
And you take advantage of that. You've got their attention, you explain it to them, and then they will inevitably share it, or they will talk around the water cooler with other people, and they become a little bit of an expert. And so I think that's a very great piece of power that people like myself have, and other people that do these video blogs, and there's several of them out there, and they do a very good job. Because we have that. We don't have a time limit. And again, as long as you're not rambling, and it's like, oh, forget this. And you learn how to do it. And I'm not perfect at what I do, but the response is really overwhelming for me in the positive way. And I really, I think that's a privilege. And I'm very appreciative of that.
I love that. You seem just such a sincere person, Mark, and just such a weather fanatic. We need more of you. We need more of you.
We're out there, believe me. And,
yeah, I know it.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and take our final break so listeners can hear Brady's Storm School. If you do have any feedback or want to chime in with any questions or comments on this topic, you can always send us an email at questions@stormfrontfreaks.com, or check us out on Twitter and Facebook. The rest of you watching, go ahead and refill your drinks, and when we come back, it'll be time for our Weather Fools and WX resources. Okay, all right. Well, Oklahoma Weather Tracker TV cut away from us, so we don't need to do the closing. They are in storms.
And I will tell you, Phil, just for your information, we're having something weird going on here where it won't go away from my feed unless I'm moving it around manually, just so you know why. I'm kind of concentrating. And
I've seen Brady for quite a while, just for what it's
well, that's not a bad thing.
There he is.
That's not a bad thing.
Like anytime Phil, usually you guys switch when you talk, but it's been on Brady since the break.
It probably, that Google's probably like noticing my hair, and they're like, let's just stay on this guy. This guy's got his hair going for him.
So algorithm, okay.
So Mark, you were seeing Brady the whole time?
Yes.
I was seeing Mark the whole time too.
It's been switching, and right now it's switching on voice for me.
Not switching for me.
For me, it's been on Mark the whole time.
But we had this issue 2 weeks ago too, when we were having some funny shit going on, and it ended up still being fine.
I'm watching the preview, the feed on the line, and it's not switching on there unless I switch it manually.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Well.
So, which is weird that you guys are seeing each other only, and some stuff like that's going on. So I don't know what's going on. It's
because I remember 2 weeks ago we were having those kind of issues, but not everybody was having them.
I caught it right away this time, and so I've been manually switching for a while.
Well, cool. All right. Well, hey, Mark,
and we lost Phil.
Phil. Mark, we appreciate having you on.
He was going to say, Mark, how much he appreciates having you on. Yes.
Yeah.
And that he will follow up. He will follow up with you afterwards with some stuff, and there he is again. And now I see him.
I got an error message came.
Now I have two Phils.
Now I see two. Oh God!
Yeah, the last one is a little
Lord
bit
help
better
us.
than the right.
Yeah, good God. You're right, Kim.
There's a smiling Phil, and then a.
And then no, it sounds like he's like
my derp face.
He's got an identical twin.
Look at that.
That's Phil and
to my left
Peter.
or to my right.
I'm going to kick your other one out.
It's like Brady Bunch.
Ooh, good
There
show.
we go.
I've ejected your other one.
No, have Phil.
Okay. Anyway, Mark, thanks, man. I will communicate or touch base with you either this weekend or like Monday, because usually we post the audio podcast. We upload that to Apple and Google and everything. That's usually up by Sunday.
Great.
But I will just follow up with you in an email, make sure you got all the links to everything, and we'll be promoting it for a couple weeks. Yeah.
Good.
So, but we appreciate it. This is some outstanding stuff. I'm really glad we
Love
got
it.
you on.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
I appreciate being asked.
Yeah. Thanks,
Cool.
Mark.
Well, thank
Good
you.
work.
Good luck with the season. Yeah, and we'll be following you, keeping in touch.
Is that it for me?
That's
That's
it.
it.
Yeah.
Catch
Good.
Some hurricanes. Catch some hurricanes,
You're
brother.
free to go chase hurricanes.
He's like,
That's
thank
right.
God. Whew.
You don't
That
have
was
to
a
go
long
home,
hour.
but you can stay here.
Yeah.
Well, hey, if you want to,
Hey, you
you're
can
welcome
stick
to
around.
stay on. Yeah,
Yeah.
all we do is when we come back from the break, we do, if anybody's got a weather resource, which is a website, book, email, piece of equipment, whatever, weather related. And then we do weather fools, which is if someone's got, a video or a story about someone who did something stupid in a weather situation.
Right.
We do those two segments and then we sign off. So you're welcome to stay if you've got something to add to one of those, I would definitely say stay. Otherwise, you're welcome to stay and listen and comment. And you don't have to go, but usually most people, after an hour of us, it's usually enough.
Well, I just know the family's going to be home in a few minutes. They literally went out to get some food, and so you never know when that door behind me. You saw, hey, let's
Yeah.
and see what happens.
Okay. Well, we can let you go then. No, that's fine. I usually don't want to keep people more than an hour. Hour, I think, is enough to ask for someone to
Well, this is great.
join us. So
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate being a part of it, and as the season progresses, maybe towards the end of the season, if we do some things, the biggest thing we want to be able to do that we haven't been able to do yet is launch that weather balloon in the eye of a hurricane.
Oh, that's going to be so awesome.
That would be cool.
And we'll even do it in a well-organized tropical storm as well for that next step. And that would be incredible to be able to share the data and some of the video from that here. Hopefully this will be the year. We've been trying for 5 years, and nature hasn't been very cooperative.
Yeah.
But be careful what you wish for.
That's right.
Yeah, this is true.
That's right,
All right.
Mark.
Well, thanks, everybody.
All right. Well,
You're
thank
welcome.
you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, man.
Is that a wave? Was that like waves crashing?
It was.
Does that sound really bad?
Was that supposed to be like clap?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be clapping, but does it
Sounds
sound
like it
horrible?
sounds like waves crashing.
It does.
Oh,
Okay,
that was
well.
peaceful.
It took away his equipment.
Like that. Does that sound
What's that?
like
Yeah.
laughter?
Muted laughter.
Yeah.
Laughter with waves, with more waves.
Well, it's
All right.
that whole aspect of how when I play the opening and closing,
Yeah.
you get kind of a little bit of a weird sound to it.
Yeah. it's
Yeah,
not
so
real
it sounds
clear.
better on the recording.
It just does it that way. I don't know why, but
All right. Darn it. We'll see. All right. So coming out of break, Brady, I've got you doing both weather fools and weather resources tonight. You're
Bam.
covering for me.
Do it.
So it really doesn't matter which one you do. If you want to do weather resources first or weather fools first, what do you want?
I'll do the fools first.
Fools first. Okay.
I've got one.
okay. Have we lost Kim?
We must have. Yeah, she's not moving.
Yeah, it's funny because I see
Kim!
a different view of her on the feed than I do on what we see.
There she is.
And here
Now
she
we got
comes
two
back.
Kims. We got two Kims.
Now we got that was weird. All of a sudden there was like an error. It just like went.
Yeah, that's what I had
Yeah.
too. An
Okay,
error
all right.
message.
Okay, yeah. That's
What's
me.
up with Google Hangouts, man?
I don't
I
know.
know they're doing something's going on tonight. Because again, Brady, who do you see right now?
Two
I
on the
see
screen.
in a
Kim.
row.
Who do
That's all you see?
Yeah, that's all I see is Kim.
You see Kim all the
Okay.
time. It's
Okay,
like
well,
all
good-
Kim.
Congratulations to you, because at least you don't
Uh-huh.
see me all the time.
That's right.
Aw.
or me.
MJ, come on, man. Give yourself some more credit. You look great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Has Phil been
All right.
talking mean to you? Because that's
Yes,
bullshit.
it has. It's terrible.
Come on, Phil.
I've been putting him down.
Brotherly love. Let's go.
His
His
confidence is lost.
self-esteem is in the
Come
toilet.
on.
Come
Yeah.
All right, so weather fools. Brady. Anybody else with a weather fool?
I don't have one.
Yeah, and I didn't either.
Do we have any?
So Brady, you're going to introduce yourself.
Oh, okay.
Have some fun with that. Introduce Weather Fools, and then say, "Hey, and I've got one. It's the Brady Show."
Hey,
just call it the Brady Show.
Here we have.
If nobody else wants to participate.
You're all just Brady Harris here. I could do that. I could talk
in
in
different voices. Do different voices.
Okay.
All right. Weather resources. I actually do have one of those.
Me too. Me
All
too.
right. All right. Cool.
Okay.
All right. Good to go.
So Phil, for that, and then we'll do listener questions and responses, and I will close.
Okay.
All right. Coming into Brady. Is that who we're coming into?
Yep.
Let's do it.
All right. Brady doesn't like it when I say one, so I'll do my normal. I'll do my normal Brady intro. Here we go. In 3, 2.
Hello once again, guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for staying with us, guys. Now we're gonna go into Weather Fools. Sorry, Phil. Phil put me in charge of both tonight, so I'm really trying to step up to the plate and hit it out of the park. I know I just hit a pop fly and it was in the infield, but I don't care. Let's keep going. So, Weather Fools, what is it? Weather Fools, basically, we look at either a YouTube video or some news story that happened recently. Yes, I am moving my hands. I love that. It basically happened recently where someone did something not so smart, and it has to do with weather. It's very funny, and we always post the links after the show. So I think we only have one Weather Fool tonight, and that's me. Guess what? We're renaming this the Brady Show. There we go. I see myself. All right, sweet. That's weird. I don't know why I'm seeing myself. All right, so I'll share my screen. Let's share this puppy. So this was after a series of storms. I believe I think it was somewhere in the south, somewhere in the southern U.S. in the past. It happened on June 12th, actually. So about a couple days ago.
Star Tribune. That's Minnesota.
Actually. Oh, it is? The Star Tribune? Interesting.
Star Tribune, yeah.
Sorry, that was my Siri.
NPR.
So there is a picture in the newspaper basically saying a violent summer storms rolls across the region. And there's people just leisurely walking underneath a down tree. Yeah, exactly. The cart path of a down tree branch that's partially torn off that literally could probably fall at any moment.
Yeah.
So these people are walking their dogs. There's 2 elderly people. There's, a younger woman running. They just don't care, So that's my Weather Fool this week. I just, people just wait. Just run around it in the grass. It's not that big of a deal. It might be a little wet.
It's hanging by a thread.
Just roll with it.
These people are crazy.
All right.
It does. Weather makes you dumb.
It does. So now we're going to head to our weather resources, and I'm hosting that too. So get ready for some more good people because I'm staying with you.
It's like 3 segments in the row of Brady. It's your storm school, and then we got weather
I can't take it.
People love it.
Oh my god.
So weather resources.
People love it. Let's take a poll.
Yeah. Okay. So weather resources. So it's basically we're going to give you some good things, good websites, possibly good Twitter feeds. Where you can get some really valuable weather information, whether it comes to, weather forecasting or current conditions, or just good weather knowledge. So let's hit it off. Phil, what is your weather resource this week?
Okay, well, I will start with my weather resource is actually hurricane related. I figured we were going to be talking about hurricanes, and I found this the other day, which is the article is titled "Simple Gourmet Meals for After the Hurricane."
What? Oh my gosh!
Really? This was apparently put together.
Roadkill.
This was put together by the American Red Cross Lee County chapter down in Florida, and it's a book. It's a bound book called "Recipes for Disaster."
Oh my god!
Simple gourmet meals for post-disaster days, presented by Angelina's Restaurante. But it goes through, talks about things that you have on, what kind of food do you call it? That's in canned, and it's called I can't
canned
think of the
food.
name.
Spam.
No,
spam. Trash canned food.
I can't think of what kind of food.
Throw it away.
Anyway, so canned food. They've got like smoked salmon, tuna fish, canned cranberries and blueberries, stuff like that. Have some corned beef, and how to make breakfast corned beef hash. Using basically the whole idea is how to use things without milk and with perishable. That's what I was looking for. Non-perishable.
Okay. Non-perishable.
What about without power?
Yeah, what about without power? Yeah.
With non-perishables, because you're probably going to be without powder.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got pancakes with chocolate chips and pecans. Just use the pancake mix that you mix with water, not with milk. It varies. And on this website, so this is weatherplus.blog.palmbeachpost.com, is the website that actually also has some of the meals that are available for you in this book. But check out Lee County American Red Cross down in Florida. If you actually want to pick up a copy of the book, they'll have it.
Bam! All right, I think that's on the West Coast, isn't it? Isn't Lee County on the West Coast, right next to Collier?
Yeah, no, it's Lee County, Florida.
Oh,
all right,
gosh!
All right, that was great, Phil. I think there's a book actually called "Recipe for Disaster." I think it's like
whole different thing.
I read it in high school.
Different book.
It was a terrible book. Different. Definitely read Recipes for Disaster. It's an important distinction. All right, Kim, what is your weather resource this week?
Okay, now bear with me because I know I always screw this up. Okay, so let's see.
I did make a comment about that in our last show that you weren't at.
You did? About how I always mess this up? Okay.
Don't worry, Kim. I stuck up.
Did I do?
Oh, you got it now.
I do? Am I there?
You got it. Yeah, we see it. Yeah.
Okay, it only took.
Is that lottery.com?
Proud of you.
Yeah, do you guys know this one? I don't know. I don't know much about this. But I came across this a few years ago, but it's lottery.com/ looks like Delmetro, but this is a aviation portal. And I thought, maybe we get some pilots who, watch our podcast or listen to our podcast, that this actually has some really cool stuff on it that if you want to know before you're flying about turbulence and icing, you go to this website, you click on turbulence and icing, and hopefully it'll come up here. And hang on, my computer is slowing down. Anyway, so it has turbulence and icing. It also, you can click on current conditions, and you can get METARs. You can look at the models. There's radar data. There's satellite. Oh, you guys, look at that. You can't. That is a rip. Anyway, so
Dina would love that. Dina would love that site.
And you know what? I totally forgot. Totally forgot she wasn't going to be on. Because I thought she would really like this one. But trust me, go to this website and you can see where there's turbulence and icing, not just here, but over the ocean. And I got another, I think it's my computer. So it also has, Latin America, overseas, even Middle East, you can look at forecasts there. So it's just kind of cool for anybody who's into aviation.
We do have listeners there. So they might be interested. Yeah, we got listeners all over the world, and we love them all.
We do? Are you really?
Kim,
that is pretty cool. Yeah.
Question: Can you with this website? Can you predict when your flight's going to be delayed before it happens? That's the real. That'd be the real money right there.
You can. Well, you probably could.
Resource.
Yeah. Because it actually, some of this they use some military forecasting. I did that when I was also in the tropical section. Was that we did turbulence and icing forecasting, and you could look at these maps and you could see where it's happening, and you could say, well, maybe that might cause me to get sick or whatever. When I fly, you take your Dramamine, but it's kind of cool stuff. But
that's awesome. Hey, well, I'm a firm believer in Dramamine, Phil. If you can get them as a sponsor,
good. No, I am too. I get motion sick.
Dramamine is just don't ever take it and drive, because one time, never mind, it was bad.
Oh, and drinking too with it? Or
No,
none of that's good. All right, so hey, well, you can check out all three of our one weather fool and our two weather resources. If you go to our website, stormfrontfreaks.com, just look up the show notes on episode 29. You'll be able to view all of those links and go check out what we couldn't either explain to you or we couldn't pull up for you. So let's jump over to MJ, see if we have any listener questions or responses.
Hey, we got one response into about last week or last 2 weeks ago show from Angelo via Twitter saying, so when news stations ask to use video Just ask them for money, ? Never known how it works. So must have been listening to one of our previous episodes where we talked about getting paid for your video. And for those of you who didn't hear those, we want you to check out Corey Hartman on episode 23 or Reed Timmer on episode 22, where we talk about those kinds of things.
Yeah, and basically it just comes down to, you just ask. I mean, that's really what you do is you just you ask if they say, hey, can we run it for free? Just say, certainly willing to negotiate a price. And if they bite on that, then you just start going with a price. That's really how you learn to do it and how you ask. And just don't be afraid to ask. Don't what we always tell most people is don't give it away, because it just creates a precedent, and it makes it harder for those that are trying to sell their good footage to sell it, because if there's a bunch of other people giving it away, they kind of lose their business. So if you get good storm footage and someone on social media, some news station wants to use it, always ask. Okay, and you can go from there. It's your choice because it's your stuff, but I would always ask.
It's like the Red Cross. They're not just going to go give away free water pouches, right? They're going to
they're going to ask.
Yeah, they're going to hold on to them. They're going to make you ask.
Do that shit all the time. All right. Yeah. So that about does it for this episode of Stormfront Freaks Podcast and Stormfront Freaks Raw. Thanks for listening and watching. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a review on your Apple Podcasts app. And if you leave your twiddle, you leave your
there we go, Phil.
That's a new thing, twiddle.
Another one.
Geezel.
Is it Geezel and twiddle?
You leave that little twiddle handle you got. Leave your Twitter handle, and I'll follow up with an MP3 copy of our intro song. I'll get that out to you. And always remember to subscribe on your podcast app of choice to the show, so you always get the latest content the minute it's released. So special thanks to our guest tonight, Hurricane Guy, Mark Sudduth. He was awesome. But guys, listen to this. So our next episode in 2 weeks is going to be on June 29th. That'll be our next live episode, new episode. It will be live, broadcast at a special time. It'll be 5 o'clock Eastern, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 o'clock Central, because we will be with the Weather Channel meteorologist Jim Cantori. So thanks to Kim we'll have Jim on. Nice. That ought to be a barn burner, I'm sure. So go to stormfrontfreaks.com or your YouTube channel if you would want to watch it live. Otherwise, it'll be posted. Our audio show will be posted as normal that weekend. So for MJ, Kim, and Brady, I'm going to go ahead and signal the all clear, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye, everyone. What was that?
It's a meow.
Cat? Oh, that was his cat.
Oh, man. That was a cat. All right. So the cat found off.
Not sure what that was.
Got to do what you got to do.
I'll have to add that for MJ and Kim and Brady and the cat. Signal the all clear.
I thought you were going to wear a cat shirt every episode.
Oh, yeah.
None of them are clean. His mom hasn't washed it for him yet. That's his problem.
Well, there's actually there's a majority of them that are still on campus. I need to go get them. I still need to move out of my campus house because I haven't gotten all my shirts.
When do you got to be out of there?
July 20.